The final draft. Welcome back to the second session of creative writing, and we will continue by speaking about the final draft. So, welcome back, everyone. We're now continuing with our exploration of the writing process, and this slide addresses a concept that's both encouraging and perhaps a bit unsettling, the idea of the final draft. Let me read this carefully. The final draft represents the culmination of this recursive process work that has been brainstormed, drafted, revised multiple times, and carefully edited for mechanical precision. However, even final drafts aren't truly finished. They're simply the best version the writer can produce at that moment in their development. Many professional writers revisit old work years later and continue revising, suggesting that the writing process never truly ends but rather pauses at strategic points. This chapter helps students understand that writing is a craft developed through a sustained practice, and that mastery of the process itself, not just the ability to produce polished products, represents a crucial learning outcome. There is a lot to unpack here. Let's start with the first part. The final draft represents the culmination of this recursive process. We have talked about brainstorming, drafting, revising, and editing. The final draft is what emerges after you have cycled through all these strategies, possibly multiple times. It should present your best work carefully throughout, well structured and polished, but then come this fascinating statement. However, even final drafts aren't truly finished. There is simply the best version the writer can produce at that moment in their development. Notice those words at the moment in their development. What does this mean? It means that you, as a writer, are always growing and learning. The story you write today, which feels finished and perfect, you might read 5 years from now and think, I could make this better now. You will have learned new techniques, gained new insights, developed your voice further. The text gives us evidence for this. Many professional writers revisit old work years later and continue revising. This actually happens. W.H. Odin revised his poems years after they were published. Writers sometimes release new editions of their novels with changes, even when work is published, supposedly completely finished. Writers sometimes cannot help but see how they do it differently now. So here is a liberating but also challenging truth. The writing process never truly ends, but rather pauses at strategic points. Literary devices and stylistic techniques introduction. Now we're moving into one of the most exciting and practical parts of our course, literary devices and stylistic techniques. This is where we get into the actual tools writers use to create effects. Literary devices and stylistic techniques represent the toolkit creative writers use to transform ordinary language into art, while content provides substance. Technique provides style, that distinctive quality that make one writer's work immediately recognizable and make reading an aesthetic as well as intellectual experience. This learning outcomes ensure students develop sophisticated command of languages, artistic possibilities, moving beyond the functional communication to create writing that delights, surprises, and resonates on multiple levels. Let's break this down. The opening metaphor is important. Literary devices and techniques are a toolkit. Think about carpenter's toolkit or toolkit. It contains many tools, hammers, saws, sanders, drills. Each tool has specific purposes. Some jobs need a hammer, some need a saw, some need several tools used together. Your writing toolkit is similar. It contains metaphor, imagery, dialogue, pacing, point of view, and dozens of other tools. Learning to write is learning what tools to use and how to use them effectively. Vivid word choice and sensory details bring writing to life by engaging readers' senses and emotions rather than abstract generalizations. Concrete details allow readers to see, hear, smell, taste, and touch the words writers create. The dog barked convey information. The German shepherd's sharp staccato barks echoed off the brick walls creates an expensive or experience. Students learn to favor specific over general, concrete over abstract, showing over telling. This doesn't mean abandoning abstract concepts entirely. Themes like love, justice, or freedom remain central to literature, but rather grounding abstractions in specific sensory experiences that make them tangible and emotionally resonant. This example is perfect. Let's really examine it. Version 1, the dog barked. This is grammatically correct. It conveys information. We know a dog made barking sounds, but it's flat. We cannot really picture it. We don't feel anything. Version 2, the German shivered sharp. Its staccato barks echoed off the brick walls. Look at what's been added. German Shepherd instead of dog. A specific breed gives us a mental image. Sharp staccato instead of just bark describes the quality of the sound. Echoed of the brick walls add environmental and acoustic quality. Now we can hear it, we can picture it. We're there in that scene with those brick walls and that particular dog. The text then gives us principle. Students learn to favor specific over general, concrete over abstract, showing over telling. Let's look at these three guidelines. Specific over general. General, for example, as a tree, specific 100 years old oak. General, a car, specific a rusted Ford pickup. General, she felt bad, specific, her stomach clenched and her hands trembled. Concrete over abstract. Abstract, he was angry. Concrete, his jaw tightened and he slammed the door. Abstract, she felt love. Concrete, she smelled when she heard his key in the lock. Showing over telling. Telling he was nervous about the interview. Showing his resume slipped from his sweating palms onto the waiting room floor. Tone and voice. Now let's discuss two closely related but distinct concepts. Tone and voice, there are essential elements of your writing style. Tone and voice work together to create the distinctive personality present in writing. Voice refers to unique sound and style that makes writing work recognizable. Their characteristic rhythms, syntax, vocabulary, and perspective. Tone involves the attitude writing conveys to word its subject and audience, whether relevant, playful, ironic, earnest, and melodic. Students experiment with different voices and tunes, discovering their natural inclinations while also stretching to inhabit voices quite different from their everyday speech. This flexibility allows writers to create authentic feeling narrators and characters, each with distinctive ways of perceiving and describing the world. So let's explain the difference between voice and tone because students often confuse them. Voice is your consistent style as a writer. It's like your personality on the page. Voice includes your sentence rhythms. Do you write long, flowing sentences or short, punchy ones? Your vocabulary, do you use sophisticated words or everyone language? Your syntax, how do you structure your sentences? Your perspective, what do you notice and emphasize? Think of it this way: if I gave 10 writers the extract or the exact same topic and told them to write in the exact same tone, their voices would still differ. You would recognize each writer's voice. Tune is the attitude toward your subject and audience in a particular piece of writing. Tone can vary from piece to piece. Even within the same piece, tune includes reverence, treating subject with deep subject, playful, light-hearted, fun, ironic, saying one thing but meaning another, earnest, sincere, or serious, melodic, sad, or reflective, sarcastic, angry, hopeful, cynical, enthusiastic, etc. Narrative techniques. Now we're going to discuss narrative techniques, the tools that specifically shape how stories are told. This is particularly relevant for fiction and creative nonfiction, though some principles apply to all writing. Narrative techniques shape how stories are structured and experienced. Dialogue reveals character, advanced plot, and creates immediate dramatic scenes. Pacing controls the rhythm of narrative, when to slow down for detailed description and when to accelerate through summary. Point of view determines whose consciousness filters the story and what information readers can access. First person narration creates intimacy but limits perspective. Third person omniscient provides godlike, astaghfirullah, overview but can feel more distant. Students learn how different techniques create different effects and how to choose approaches that serve their specific artistic purposes. Let's examine each technique mentioned. First, dialogue. The text says dialogues reveals the character, advances plot, and creates immediate dramatic scenes. Let's look at what good dialogue does. Reveals characters. How someone speaks tells us who they are. Compare. I suppose we might consider attending the performance. We going to the show or what? Second, pacing, the text saying, pacing controls the rhythm of narrative, when to slow down for detailed description and when to accelerate through summary. Think of pacing like music. Sometimes the music is slow and you notice every note. Sometimes it's fast and exciting. Good narratives vary their pace. Third point of view, this is one of the most important narrative choices. The text mentions two common pairs of view. First person, I walked into the room and saw him standing here or there. Creates intimacy, where in the narrator's head, limited to what this one character knows and experiences. Reader may question, is this narrator reliable? Are they telling the truth? Experimenting with form and language. We're now moving to a more advanced concept, experimenting with form and language. This represents the creative edge where writers innovate. Experimenting with form and language for artistic effect represents perhaps the most advanced aspect of this outcome. It seems move beyond merely employing conventional techniques to innovating new approaches or combining existing techniques in original ways. This might involve writing prose that incorporates poetic compression and imagery, creating hybrid forms that blur genre boundaries, or developing completely new structural approaches. Such experimentation requires confidence, technical mastery, and willingness to risk failure, qualities that define mature, accomplished writers. By developing command of literary devices and stylistic techniques, students gain the tools necessary not just to imitate existing literature, but to contribute original work to ongoing literary conversations. This is advanced work, but it's important to understand what this means and where you might eventually take your writing. First, notice the phrase move beyond merely employing conventional techniques to innovating new approaches. This assumes that you've first mastered the conventional techniques. You cannot effectively break rules you do not understand. Picasso learned to paint realistically before he develops Cubism. James Joyce mastered conventional narratives before writing Ulysses. You need to know the conventions before you can productively subvert them. Chapter 3, producing original creative work. We're now entering chapter 3, which is really the heart of creative writing education. Actually, producing originally creative work, all the learning about process, techniques, and analysis ultimately serves this purpose, creating your own original literature. Producing original creative work represents the ultimate goal of creative writing education, the point where study, practice, and skill development culminates in meaningful artistic achievement. While analyzing literature, mastering techniques, and understanding theory all matter tremendously. Creative writing remains fundamentally about creation. Students must actually write poems, stories, essays, and scripts that embody their learning and express their unique voices and visions. This is worth pausing on. Everything we've discussed, the writing process, literary devices, tune, and voice, all of this is preparation for the real work, writing your own original pieces. Notice the phrase meaningful artistic achievement, not just any writing, but writing that matters, that expresses something important, that demonstrates genuine artistic accomplishment. The text acknowledged that analyzing literature, mastering techniques, and understanding theory all matter tremendously. We have spent considerable time on these things, and rightly so, but then comes the crucial statement. Creative writing remains fundamentally about creation. You can analyze Shakespeare's brilliantly. You can identify every literary device in Virginia's Woolf or Virginia Woolf. You can discuss narrative theory sophisticatedly, but if you never write your own work, you're not a creative writer, you're a literary critic or scholar, valuable roles about different roles. A student must actually write poems, stories, essays, and scripts that embody their learning and express their unique voices and visions. Fiction writing. Let us start with fiction, which is probably the genre most people think of when they hear creative writing. Fiction writing demands synthesis of numerous elements. Compelling characters feel psychologically real, and complex motivations, distinctive voices, and developmental arcs. Plot provides structure, not just events happening randomly, but casually connected actions arising from character choices and external circumstances. Setting creates the world where stories unfold. whether realistic contemporary life or fantastical alternate universes. Most crucially, conflict generates the tension that keeps readers engaged. Protagonists want something, but face obstacles preventing easy achievement. Learning to balance these elements while maintaining narrative momentum and emotional resonance challenges fiction writers at every skill level. This is a comprehensive overview of fiction writing. Let me break down each element. Characters. The text describes them as psychologically real with complex motivations, distinctive voices, the developmental arcs. Psychologically real characters should think and feel like actual people, even if they're in fantastical situations. Complex motivations, the characters want things, fear things, value things. These motivations should be layered, sometimes contradictory. A character might want to be honest but also want to protect someone, forcing a difficult choice. Distinctive voices, each character should speak and think differently. You should be able to tell who's talking uh, even without dialogue tags. Developmental arcs, characters should change through the story. They learn, they grow, they regress, they transform. Static characters who do not change make boring stories. Plot. The text emphasizes not just events happening randomly, but casually connected actions arising from character choices and external circumstances. This is crucial. Plot isn't it just this happened, then this happened, then this happened. That's just a sequence of events. Plot is this happened, which caused this, which led to this. Example of events without a plot. John went to the store, he brought milk. He went home, he watched TV. Setting, the text says this creates the worlds where stories unfold, whether realistic contemporary life or fantastical alternate universes. Setting isn't just backdrop, it's integral to the story. A story set in the rural Alabama in the 1930s is fundamentally different from one set in future Tokyo, even if the basic plot is similar. Setting includes physical place, time period, social environment, weather and atmosphere, crucial, and the cultural context. Good fiction makes readers feel present in the setting through specific details. Conflict, the text emphasizes this, generates the tension that keeps readers engaged. The protagonists want something but face obstacles preventing easy achievement. Now let's move to poetry. Now let's turn to poetry, which operates quite differently from fiction. Poetry is the most compressed, intense form of creative writing. Poetry emphasizes economy and intensity, demanding writers communicate maximum meaning with minimum words. Compression requires cutting away anything inessential, distilling experiences and emotions to their purest expressions. Imagery engages senses and creates concrete, specific pictures in readers' minds. Musicality exploits language's sonic properties, rhythm, rhyme, alteration, assonance to create aesthetic pleasure and reinforce meaning. Form provides a structure, whether traditional fixed form like sonnets with their prescribed rhythm or prescribed rhyme schemes and meter, or free verse that creates its own internal logic and architecture. Poetry teaches precision and attention to every word, skill that benefit all writing. Let's examine each aspect of poetry, economy and intensity. Text says poetry demands maximum meaning with minimum words. A short story might use 5,000 words to explore grief. A poem might use 20 words and achieve equal or greater emotional impact. How? Through compression and intensity. Every single word in a poem must justify its existence. Example of prose: I felt very sad when I remembered my grandmother who died last year and how much I missed her. Example of poetry compressing the same emotion. Her empty chair still, I set 2 cups for tea. The poem is much shorter but potentially more powerful. It shows grief through concrete image, empty chair, 2 cups, rather than stating the emotion. Compression: the text describes this as cutting away anything inessential, distilling experiences and emotions to their purest expressions. Writing poetry is like making perfume from flowers. You take a huge amount of raw materials and extract the absolute sense and the absolute essence. You cut and cut and cut until only the most essential words remain. Imagery: the text says imagery engages scenes and creates concrete, specific pictures in reader's mind. Poetry relies only on images. Or I can say poetry relies heavily on images. Things you can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. Abstract statements usually fails in poetry. Concrete images succeeds. Weak love is complex, strong, like the broken glass you pick up barefoot at midnight. Second, creates an image you can visualize and almost feel. It makes the abstraction love tangible. Musicality: text mention rhythm, rhyme, essence, and alteration that creates aesthetic pleasure and reinforce meaning. Form: the text mentions traditional fixed forms like sonnets and free verse. Many fiction writers study poetry significantly to improve their prose. The pre-session poetry demands transfer to all writing. Creative information or creative non-fiction bridges literary art and factual accuracy, applying fiction's narrative techniques to a true story. This genre includes memoir, personal essay, literary journalism, and hybrid forms that resist easy categorization. The key challenge involves maintaining truthfulness while crafting compelling narratives. Real life doesn't naturally organize itself into dramatically satisfying structures with clear themes and resolutions. Writers must find the story within the facts, determining which details to emphasize and how to arrange material for maximum impact without distorting truth. Voice becomes particularly important in creative nonfiction as a writer's personality and perspective shape how readers experience and interpret factual information. Script writing for stage, screen, or audio demands understanding dramatic structure and visual storytelling, unlike prose fiction, where internal thoughts can be directly accessed. Scripts must externalize everything through dialogue, action, and visual elements audiences can perceive. Scene structure follows clear dramatic beats. Characters enter with objectives, face obstacles, make choices, and experience consequences. Dialogue must sound natural, while being more purposeful than actual speech, advancing plot and revealing character simultaneously. Dramatic tension builds through escalating conflicts and rising stakes, creating the propulsive momentum that keeps audiences engaged. Students learn to think spatially and visually, imagining how words on the page will translate into performance. Critical reading and analysis. Critical reading and analysis skills enable writers to learn from literature. Systematically rather than passively consuming texts as entertainment. While intuitive reading provides pleasure and emotional engagement, critical reading adds intellectual rigor, helping students understand not just what texts say about how they work and why they matter. This analytical capacity directly improves students' own writing by eliminating the craft decisions underlying successful literature and revealing patterns worth emulating or avoiding. Analyzing texts for themes, values, and cultural impact requires looking beyond the surface narratives to deeper meanings and implications. Themes represent recurring ideas or concern that give texts significance beyond their specific plots, love, morality, or mortality, justice, identity, power. Students learn to identify themes and understand how writers develop there through character, plot, imagery, and structure. Values analysis considers what beliefs and assumptions the text convey, whether explicitly or implicitly, about how the world works and what matters. Cultural impact assessment examines how texts have shaped or reflected societal attitudes, influenced other writers, or contributed to ongoing conversations about important issues. Literary theory provides frameworks for interpretation that reveal dimensions of texts not immediately apparent. Feminist criticism examines how texts represent gender, challenging patriarchal assumptions and highlighting women's experiences. Post-colonial theory analysis or analysis literature in relation to colonialism, imperialism, and cultural domination. Psychoanalytic approaches explore unconscious desires and anxieties manifested in text. Formalist criticism focuses exclusively on internal elements like structure and language. Uh, Practicing external contexts. Students do not need to become specialists in every theoretical school, but benefit from understanding how different critical lenses reveal different aspects of literature. Understanding historical and cultural context enriches interpretation by situating texts within the circumstances of their creating or their creation. A contemporary reader approaches Victorian literature without historical knowledge might misinterpret conventions or miss references obvious to originally audiences. Similarly, understanding and author's biography can eliminate them themes and concerns in their work. Though students also learn that texts aren't simply autobiographical transcription, writers transform personal experience through imagination and craft. The ability to read critically transforms students' relationship with literature from passive consumptions to active engagement. They become not just readers but interpreters capable of explaining how texts create meaning and evaluating their artistic merit and cultural significance. These analytical skills prove valuable far beyond creative writing courses, supporting success or success in literature classes, humanities disciplines generally, and any field requiring careful reading, thoughtful interpretation, and clear communication of complex ideas. Moreover, the analytical rigor developed through critical reading directly enhances students' creating or creative work by making them more conscious, deliberate, craftspeople aware of the full range of choices available when producing original literature. Peer review and critical commentary. Peer review and critical commentary or represent essential learning outcomes that extend creative writing education beyond the individual skill development to community participation and professional preparation. The ability to analyze others' writing thoughtfully and articulate constructive feedback demonstrates sophisticated understanding of craft. If you cannot explain what makes writing effective or offer suggestions for improvement without really, deeply grasping the techniques involved. Moreover, given feedback often proves as educational as receiving it, as analyzing others' work with critical distance clarifies principles applicable to one's own writing. Providing detailed constructive feedback requires balancing honesty with support. Effective peer reviewers identify both strengths and weaknesses, explaining specifically what works well and what could be improved. Vague praise like "I liked it" or harsh criticism like "this doesn't work" offer little value. Instead, useful feedback pinpoints particular passages, explains reader response, and suggests concrete revision strategies. For example, the dialogue in the opening scene establishes character relationships efficiently, but the exposition in paragraph 3 feels heavy-handed. Consider revealing that background information gradually through dialogue or action instead of direct statements. Articulating craft elements pushes students to develop sophisticated vocabulary for discussing writing rather than relying on impression or impressionistic responses. They learn to identify specific techniques, point of view choices, narrative pacing, metaphoric patterns, tonal shifts, structural decisions. This technical language allows precise discussion of craft and helps writers understand exactly what's succeeding or struggling in their work. It transforms workshop discussions from subjective opinions exchange to rigorous craft analysis grounded in shared understanding of literary techniques. Reflecting critically on one's own writing through peer dialogue creates opportunities for insight that private revision cannot replicate. When peers articulate confusion about a passage the writer thought was clear or identify a theme the writer didn't consciously intend, valuable information emerged about how the text actually operates versus how the writer assumed it worked. This gap between intention and execution reveals where revision should focus. Additionally, defending craft choices to peer, explaining why a particular technique was used or what effect was intended forces writers to articulate their artistic reasoning, making implicit choices explicit and often revealing whether those choices actually serve the worker's purposes. The peer review process also prepares students for professional writing careers, where editors, agents, and other readers will critique their work, learning to concept criticism without defensiveness, distinguish useful feedback from helpful suggestions, and maintain confidence in one's vision while remaining open to improvement characterizes successful professional writer. The workshop environment provides low stake practice in navigating these interpersonal and emotional challenges, building resilience and professionalism alongside craft skills. Now let's move to chapter 4, communication beyond the page. Creative writing communication extends far beyond producing written texts to encompass the full range of professional and public interactions writers engage in throughout their careers. Students must learn to present work orally, discuss their creative processes articulately, understand publishing landscapes, and communicate effectively with various audiences, including peers, editors, and general readers. These complementary skills transforms students from private writers into public literary citizens capable of participating fully in literary communities. Oral presentation skills prove essential for writers despite the written nature of their primary medium. Public readings at bookstores, libraries, conferences, and literary events present crucial opportunities to connect with audiences, promote work, and participate in literary culture. Reading aloud requires different techniques than page-based composition, attention to pacing, projection, dramatic interpretation, and audience engagement. Students learn to select appropriate concepts, practice delivery, manage stage presence, and handle the nervous energy that accompanies public performance. These experiences build confidence and reveal how texts should when voiced, often leading to revision insights about rhythm, dialogue, and pacing that silent reading couldn't provide. Writing about writing develops meta cognitive awareness and critical thinking about craft. Artistic statements, critical prefaces, and craft essays require writers to articulate their creative process, aesthetic principles, and artistic goals. This reflective writing deepens understanding by forcing implicit knowledge into explicit articulation. When writers must explain why they made the particular craft choices or what they hoped to achieve, they often discover gaps in their reasoning or new insights about their work. These written reflections also serve practical purposes, providing material for grant applications, residence proposals, and communications with editors and agents who want to understand a writer's vision and approach. Understanding the literary publishing landscape empowers students to share work beyond the classroom walls. This includes knowledgeable of literary journals and magazines where writers publish individual pieces, book publishers ranging from small indie presses to major commercial houses, literary agents who represent authors to publishers, and contests offering publication opportunities and validation. Students learn to research appropriate venues for their work, understanding that a literary horror journal differs from a mainstream literary magazine, and that matching work to suitable venues increases acceptable chances. They also learn about query letters, cover letters, submission formats, and the business aspects of professional writing. Judging appropriate venues for publication requires understanding one's own work accurately and researching potential publishers thoroughly. Students learn to read journals, critically identifying which publish work similar in style, subject, or aesthetic to their own. They discover how to analyze publishers' backlists, understand editorial preferences, and avoid wasting time submitting work to inappropriate venues. This research skill proves valuable throughout writing careers, helping authors to find the right homes for different projects and build publication records strategically. These communication skills beyond the page integrate creative writing with professional and civic participation. Students emerge not as isolated craftspeople toiling in garrets, but as articulate literary citizens prepared to share their work publicly or publicly, discuss their craft thoughtfully, and navigate professional publication successfully. This comprehensive preparation ensures graduates can pursue different and diverse creative writing careers, whether teaching, freelancing, publishing books, or combining writing with other professional activities or activities. Ethical and responsible use of technology. Technology has transformed creative writing in profound ways, from basic composition tools to publishing platforms to artificial intelligence applications. Students must learn to employ these technologies ethically and effectively, understanding both their creative possibilities and the potential pitfalls. This learning outcome ensures graduates navigate digital writing environments responsibly, using technology to enhance rather than replace human creativity, and maintaining ethical standards in an increasingly complex technological landscape. Digital tools have revolutionized the practical aspects of writing. Word processors enable essay revision, allowing writers to rearrange, expand, and polish drafts without typing entire manuscripts as previous generations required. Specialized writing software offers features like distraction-free interfaces, originated tools for complex projects, and formatting assistance for specific publication requirements. Collaboration platforms facilitate peer review and group projects. However, over reliance on technology can create problems. Auto correct errors, formatting complications, and the loss of handwritten compositions. The cognitive benefits. Students learn to use digital tools strategically while recognizing when analog methods might serve better. Artificial intelligence presents both opportunities and ethical challenges for creative writers. Grammar checkers can identify mechanical errors efficiently, though they sometimes make incorrect suggestions. AI can generate text, answer questions, and even attempt creating or creative writing, raising questions about authorship, originality, and the nature of creative work or creativity itself. Students learn to use AI tools as assistants, helping with brainstorming, identifying weaknesses in drafts, researching while maintaining their own creative agency and voice. They understand that AI generated text, while sometimes impressive, lacks the lived experience, emotional authenticity, and international craft that characterizes meaningful creative writing. Most importantly, they learn academic and professional contexts where AI use is appropriate versus situations where it constitutes a plagiarism or fraud. Copyright citation and intellectual property law affects creative writers in multiple ways. Writers must understand how to properly attribute or attribute sources when quoting or referencing others' work, avoiding plagiarism acquisitions. They need to grasp fair use principles, determining when copyrighted material can be used without permission. They should protect their own work through copyright, understanding automatic protections and when registration proves beneficial in an era of easy digital copying and remix culture. These legal and ethical considerations becoming increasingly complex and important. It's used to learn both the technical requirements and the ethical reasoning underlying intellectual property norms. Digital publishing platforms have democratized access to audiences while creating new challenges around quality control. This discoverability and professional standards. Writers can self-publish books, maintain blogs, share work on social media, and reach global audiences without traditional gatekeepers. However, this accessibility doesn't guarantee relationship or income, and the sheer volume of valuable content makes standing out difficult. Students learn to evaluate digital publishing options strategically, understanding the differences between traditional publishing, self-publishing, and online platforms. They also learn to build online preferences professionally, balancing self promotion with authenticity and maintaining boundaries between public and private life. By mastering ethical and responsible technology use, students prepare for creative writing careers in contemporary technological contexts. They understand how to leverage digital tools effectively while avoiding dependence on them, how to use AI assistants without compromising originally, how to protect their intellectual property while respecting others, and how to navigate digital publishing landscapes strategically. This technological literacy combined with strong craft skills and critical thinking positions graduates for success in rapidly evolving literary and professional environments. Thank you so much for watching me teaching you the second lecture of creative writing. We will continue tomorrow, the last and the final session of this wonderful topic. Until next time, ta for now.